Hey guys, I am really excited today because not only I get to talk about Tesla, I get to talk about Tesla with two other amazing Tesla enthusiasts, specifically Zach and Jesse at the Now You Know channel. If you've never seen their videos, you definitely should. I'm going to put a link down here in the description of this video and a card over here, so you can definitely browse, check out their videos, like, and definitely subscribe to their channel, because a lot of subscribers to this channel, a lot of members of both of my Facebook groups get a lot of information and news from their videos, including myself. They're truly informative, so go ahead, check them out, subscribe to their channel, and if you for some reason haven't subscribed to this channel yet, the subscribe button is right here, so please go ahead and click on it so you don't miss anything moving forward.
Yeah, let's get started.
Hey Alex, and we love your show.
Thanks guys, I really appreciate it. Well, let's just jump right in, and the first thing I wanted to talk to you about is something that may sound a little weird here in Silicon Valley, but the reality of it is that electric cars in general, and Tesla in particular, is not something that's just kind of made it into the mainstream yet, right? And there are many different reasons. A lot of times, Tesla is not an affordable car, and people just in general just don't know enough about electric cars. But when do you think it's going to happen? And also, how can we get there? For an average Joe who is just shopping for his or her next car, to consider an electric car, and Tesla in particular, as not only a viable option, but also a better option to everything else that the rest manufacturers producing gas cars have to offer.
Alex, that's a great question. We get asked that a lot when we're at car shows, especially. Jesse, when do you think that's going to happen?
I think that's going to happen right when the Model 3 comes out, and immediately afterward. So many people don't know about electric cars because Tesla doesn't advertise, and the big car manufacturers kind of don't want you to hear about it yet.
Right.
So when the Model 3 comes out, we're going to have tons of people who couldn't necessarily afford a Tesla, but for the first time they will own a Tesla. And I know that these people are super excited to own a Tesla, to drive an electric vehicle, and they're going to be showing it off just like we showed off our car. Exactly. And every Tesla owner is like, this car's electric.
And what stopped Tesla so far, I think, for the average Joe, is that the cars are expensive. So when they do hear about them, they kind of think, well, that's not for me, I can't afford it.
Yeah.
But when the Model 3 comes out and it's in a regular price range, I think a lot of people's heads are going to turn and they're going to go, wait a minute, what? You can do all this with the Model 3 and I can afford it?
Right.
And I think that's what's going to cause it to happen. So I think we're talking about a year.
Yeah, about a year from now, I think a lot of people are going to be talking about electric cars that were not talking about them before.
Yeah.
I can't agree with you more. I definitely believe that Model 3 coming out this year is going to be that one thing that needed to push this entire concept into the mainstream. So I'm as anxious as everybody else and looking forward to it. And to continue on in this theme, as Model 3 is due to be released in July and start real mass production later this year, let's be honest, the rest of the manufacturers, the rest of the car makers haven't really made an honest attempt at this technology. And at first it was like, well, Tesla is making a roadster, it's an exotic car, whatever. Then they're saying, well, it's a very small niche market of high-priced cars, and whatever. They weren't really paying that much attention. But now with Model 3, I'm sure they're thinking it now, but especially when people are going to start driving them and buying them and the demand is going to grow, I'm assuming they're going to try to do something about it. So what do you think the rest of the car industry is going to do about this, and how do you think it's going to affect Tesla?
That's a great question, Alex. I think that Chevy Bolt has shown that Chevy finally gets it when it comes to range.
Right.
And I think we're seeing some other manufacturers like Porsche and BMW come out with cars that have the range, because before this we had the Nissan Leaf and the i3, which had the 100-mile range.
Or sub 100 range.
And they've realized that's not enough now that Tesla's gotten it to 200 plus.
Right.
But I think there's another area where they don't get it.
Right. I think the second point, and the one that a lot of car manufacturers are missing, is the fast charging network. The Tesla supercharging network is something that no one talks about, but it is one of the most important aspects of the car. Being able to travel just like a normal car, up and down the country, all across it. I mean, we've done it. We know exactly what it's like. It's basically
easy.
It's super easy. It's just like a road trip. I think that is the second key, the second point that a lot of these car companies are going to run into. They're going to find out, sure, we have the range, but we don't have the network to support that kind of car and that sort of.
And they're years behind, I think.
Absolutely, and it's going to take them a while to sort of realize and then catch up.
Right.
It's definitely going to be a long and uphill battle for the rest of the industry to catch up to where Tesla is even right now, especially with Model 3 obviously coming out and probably getting popular relatively fast. And continuing with that topic, what feature do you think will be the feature that will blow people away as they get in front of the wheel of a Tesla for the first time? Now, we Model S and Model X owners already know about all these amazing features that our car has and have been added to it, but what do you think that one thing that people will be just absolutely wowed by when they finally meet the Tesla brand when the Model 3 comes out?
That's a great question, Alex. I think one of the most amazing things about driving an electric car is the acceleration of an electric car. And not just the acceleration, but the instant acceleration. The second you put your foot down, you are accelerating. There's no engine rev. So people who are switching from a internal combustion engine car over to a Tesla Model 3 are going to be pretty blown away by not only the acceleration, but also the jerk force.
Yes, I agree with that. And then the second thing, and maybe even the first thing, would be the autonomous driving. The fact that no one else has ever experienced this before. When they get in a Model 3, and all of them have the hardware, so and probably by the time they roll out, they're going to have the software too. That is going to blow people away. The fact that you can get on the highway and take your hands off the wheel and it does the driving for you, people just can't understand that until they experience it.
Right.
It's not even something, like even in a showroom you can't understand it. You have to go for a long test drive. And I think once they actually experience it through their friends and stuff, they're going to want it.
Absolutely. It's such an amazing feature.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait to see all of the videos of excitement that we'll see from the people who are introduced to the brand and to the Model 3. It will be almost like 2012 again when the Model S came out and everybody kind of started realizing how amazing of the car and how amazing of the brand this is. And now we've been talking about Model 3 almost like it's already on the road, but the reality is that they're only going to start production in July. And as we all know, with Model S and Model X, Tesla has definitely missed their estimates on when they were going to produce those models when they just got started. So I was wondering, do you think that this time around is going to be different and Tesla really will come up with Model 3 and release it when they've promised? Or do you think we're going to experience another delay and people will get a little bit anxious and unhappy? What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, Alex, we get asked this a lot because a lot of people are waiting for their Model 3s, and yes, I do think they're going to be able to deliver. The reason is that the Model S and the Model X were a learning curve for them, especially the Model X because they threw so much into it. The Model S is so much simpler. I mean, not having to do falcon wing doors and giant windshields and stuff like that, they've learned. And that's why they're simplifying things, they're cutting things back, and didn't they just recently do a test run?
They just did a test run at the Fremont factory. They shut down the S and X production to run some Model 3s through. So I mean, that is a great sign for basically still early in the year to be making Model 3s.
And the big hang up before were suppliers, and they have gotten their supplier chain down a lot tighter than it was before, and the suppliers don't have to deliver such crazy things as they did before.
Right.
It's going to be similar stuff that they've been delivering now for years. So yes, I do think they're going to be on time.
Yeah, and I agree, and it looks like they are going to meet their own deadlines this time around because they've learned a lot of lessons, not just valuable but very pricey. So certainly I hope so, and I can't wait to see Model 3 cars out there on the road here in Silicon Valley. And now a lot of Model S and Model X owners, current owners, are also reservation holders for Model 3. As a matter of fact, we'll be getting priority over the first-time buyers. But at the same time, Model 3 is a simplified version of the Model S. Now, do you think that it still has enough appeal for current owners of Model S and Model X to go ahead and buy the Model 3? Or do you think we're a little too spoiled and a lot of us will just kind of pass on that and stick with our cars moving forward?
That's a really good question, Alex. A lot of Model X and S drivers have significant others or family members, and a lot of those people want to drive the Tesla. They want, like, if they're going somewhere, oh, can I drive the Tesla? Because it's such a fun car to drive, it's such a fun car to own, and so a lot of, I think the appeal in the Model 3 is oh, we can get another Tesla to replace our second car.
Right. I mean, you've driven an S and an X.
I've driven an S and an X, and I can say from experience, if I hadn't done that, would I be thinking about the Model 3? Probably, but some other people, some spouses who were probably like, why are you buying this expensive, crazy car, are now going to be like, I can have my own car?
That's a really good point. I mean, my wife didn't think I had all my brains intact when I got the X. I mean, it was expensive, never been made before.
Right.
And until the second day that I owned it, she still thought I was crazy. And that second day is when she rode in it with me. And then she went, oh, I get it now.
Right.
And now I can barely ever get it out of her hands. So that's why we're getting a 3, so that she can drive that.
Right. So,
or maybe I'll be driving that.
Right. So I think that is really the crux of it.
Yeah.
And it is very attractive.
It may not be as high a luxury car, the 3, as the S and the X.
But it's from the same family.
Exactly.
And
it does almost all the same things.
Almost all the same things.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with you guys on this one as well. I don't think anyone's going to be replacing their cars with Model 3, but I think it will be a great addition to the families, maybe for their significant others or their kids or so forth, to add Model 3 to what they already have. Now, one thing that Model 3 owners won't have is the free supercharging network. Because up until this year, it was a great value for anybody who bought a Tesla, right? You would get access to this amazing supercharger network anywhere for free. But starting this year, it started already, Tesla will give you about 1,000 miles per year for free, but after that you would have to have pay a small fee. Now, how do you think it's going to affect Model 3 owners and just generally Tesla sales now that supercharger network is no longer free and you do have to pay a small fee to use it?
This is a big sticking point, I think, for a lot of people who are just hearing about the Tesla now. They think that, oh, they missed the boat. They're not going to be able to get free supercharging. And I think that free supercharging, we knew for a while that it was not going to be something that lasted forever.
Right.
It just doesn't make fiscal sense. But the reason that they did it was to entice buyers to buy their very early cars.
Right.
The ones that they were just sort of hoping to get put together. And
it worked.
And it worked. It got those people to buy those cars and to share that experience with other people, to the point where when they announced the Model 3, 500,000 people sign up.
And electricity is 1/3 the cost right now, and that's with gas being cheap.
Right.
So you can imagine when gas prices go up.
Right. It's going to be the cheaper option. And I think that when solar and wind play a bigger role in our energy consumption, we're going to have cleaner and cheaper electricity.
And also, I think that Elon is thinking down the road a few years when we might be using our Teslas as mobile batteries for the grid. And I know this is like a complicated topic, but it's already being kind of played out in the Netherlands where they're doing experiments with it. If we are actually driving around with mobile batteries, we can't go charging up for free and then powering our house with it later. That wouldn't be cool.
That wouldn't be cool.
Yeah, and I agree. And also, how many people do you know who travel more than 1,000 miles per year as far as long distance traveling? I don't think there will be that many. And even for those who will have to pay that small fee for the supercharger network, I think it's still definitely a great deal compared to the price of gas, even though it is definitely low right now. Let's switch gears for a second. I want to talk about customer service, because in the beginning, when we bought our cars in 2012, 2013, the first cars coming out, the customer service was amazing and it matched the amazing car that we bought. But in the last few years, well, I don't want to say a few years, but probably a year or so, more and more people have been complaining about customer service, including myself. And partially it's understandable because there are so many more cars on the road now, and maybe they're having trouble scaling because you have to build more service centers, hire more amazing customer service reps, and I know that's difficult. But on the other hand, Model 3, once that comes out, once they ramp up the production, the roads will get flooded with Teslas, really. Do you think they will be able to keep up with this demand, because they're already behind? Do you think they'll scale it up? Do you think they will match the amazing factor of the car itself? Or do you think it's going to be a while and we're just going to have to get used to the fact that the service is just not as great as a car?
Alex, that's a really good point. I mean, right now the S and the X and the Roadster are all luxury cars. And I mean, this is my first new car ever, so I don't consider myself a luxury car owner. But many luxury car owners that I meet are very high maintenance. I mean, they want the top of the notch, and they deserve it. They paid a lot for their car. But the Model 3 is going to be a mid-level car, and I think that middle-level buyers aren't expecting the same fit and finish as the luxury car buyers. So I think that's going to help. But I do want to point out that when you have a problem with your Tesla, if there's an engineering problem involved, they go back, re-engineer the part, and change it on the line back at the factory immediately, as opposed to waiting for 2 more production years to go by. So that's going to eliminate a lot of issues. And yes, you'll experience the problem as the first buyer of the car, but then someone down the road like you won't. So that's huge. I agree that we need more service centers because obviously there's going to be hundreds of thousands of cars. But I'm assuming smart people at Tesla are going to be unrolling those.
Right.
So as long as they keep up, I mean, this is tough because it must be a real cat and mouse game where you have to keep putting out more service centers, training more people. So I'm sure that's tough to do.
Right.
But so far, they seem to be doing it. And you were just pointing out about numbers, satisfaction numbers from Consumer Reports.
Right, so Consumer Reports just came back with some numbers about customer satisfaction. Basically, the rating was, if you had to go back and do it again, would you buy a Model X or Model S? And Tesla was the #1 choice of, yes, I would buy this car again.
Beating out companies like Porsche by a big margin.
By a huge margin. And so I think that that is really indicative of just how good, not only the support, but I mean, you have to factor in also the car with it. I mean, so.
Well, I have to say that you guys are definitely more optimistic about this than I am, but I think this is one of those things where I hope that I am wrong and you are right. And let's talk about another issue that I think a lot of people have been bringing up, which is, a traditional car, especially a traditional luxury car, has upgrades to it and to its software every 5 to 7 years, right? It's been kind of industry standard for a while. But now with Tesla, and Elon Musk was very clear that Tesla will get upgrades every 12 to 18 months, which is unprecedented for the industry. Now, on one hand, I totally understand, and it's great because the technology is moving very fast, and Tesla innovates, on much higher pace than other car makers. But on another hand, the concern of a lot of owners is this. Listen, I just bought a car like a year ago and now it's outdated. The latest software doesn't even work with my autopilot hardware that was brand new only a year ago. And it's concerned on different levels. And, one, people obviously like driving latest and greatest. And at the same time, the value of the car can go down quite significantly if, in 3 or 4 or 5 years, the technology of the latest cars are so much more advanced. What are your thoughts on that? How do you think it's going to play out with future Tesla owners and specifically Model 3 owners?
So this is something that is worrying a lot of people, but I think that we're just sort of approaching it the wrong way. Conventional internal combustion engine cars are just engines on wheels.
Yep.
You've built this entire car around the engine, including you're putting the passengers off to different sides because you have to run the drive shaft through. You are building the car around the engine.
And engines don't get updated that frequently.
Right. The Tesla, however, is a computer on wheels.
Right.
Everything about it is technology. The drivetrain and stuff probably won't need to change that much, but
Right, I mean, Nikola Tesla invented it like 100 years ago.
Right,
So.
the motors and stuff, I mean, the batteries, yes, are going to be getting updated and upgraded, and so are all of the tech, all of the autonomous features and stuff like that. And if you're viewing it as, oh, well, this is an automobile that I will drive until I die, you could. And I think that you probably should, but, I mean, if you only want the greatest and latest,
then lease your cars.
Lease your cars. I mean, there's nothing else we can say.
Right.
If that is all you care about, I mean,
then do a short-term lease. But I want to point out that, I mean, in the not too distant future, we're going to be going to an autonomous driving future where we probably won't own cars anymore. I know that seems weird right now, and you're probably like, what are you talking about, Zach? But I promise you we're going to get there, and at some point people will be like, what? People used to buy cars.
Right. It's going to seem very strange, and we're just working up to that point.
Right.
Absolutely, and I love your point about leasing Teslas because I myself believe that leasing is specifically for people who love latest technology. I have a separate video about that. I'm going to put a link to that as well in the card over here, so check it out. I feel like I can talk to you guys forever, but we are running out of time. So thank you so much for answering my questions and talking to me. I hope we're gonna do it again. And of course, I always welcome everybody to post their comments right here in the comment section. I would love this conversation to continue on with everybody who has watched this video, and I'll definitely make sure to answer any kind of questions and posts that you guys are posting, because I'd love to participate in the conversation after the video is done. So thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate you hanging out with me this afternoon.
Thank you so much, Alex, for having us. This was a blast. This was like East Coast, West Coast, you know. Yeah. So that was great.
We definitely have a ton of questions for you to sort of get your perspective on things. So to those of you watching, if you want to go check that out, you can go check out our video on our channel and see some questions that Alex has to answer.
Cool.
Absolutely, I'm looking forward to that as well. For those of you who want to see that video, which you should, please go ahead and browse to Zach and Jass's channel. The description of my video right here has the link to their channel. We're going to have another great conversation about other Tesla-related topics, except for roles are going to be a little bit reversed. I'll be answering their questions. So go ahead, browse, subscribe to their channel, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. The button is still right here. Until next time, don't forget to stay charged.